welcome back to my channel. It is Christian here, and you're tuned in for more of my 2 cents. If you are new to the channel, then welcome. And if you're returning, then hey y'all, hey, thank y'all so much for tuning in today, okay? If you like the videos, if you like the content, subscribe to the channel, okay? I would love to add you to my 2 cents crew and let you be a part of all that we do. Ooh, all right? Lately, I have been doing some live reactions to emails and Reddit threads about people who have left religion, deconstruction, and just overall church or religious organization horror stories, and they have been great. I have been enjoying them, and I hope you all have too. That's what I cover here on my channel. I give my 2 cents on a lot of things, but religion is usually the main focus and topic of discussion because there's so many of us navigating through those experiences, as well as getting away from a lot of the indoctrination and just the bullish, like in real life, okay? So thank you guys so much for sending in your emails, your stories, and sharing your testimonies and allowing me to share them with my viewers here on the channel. So let's jump right into today's email. We have an email from one of our subscribers, from one of our viewers, one of my great watchers who loves to engage and just, be a part of the conversation. And I love that so much when you guys do that. So I guess I'll keep you anonymous. If you don't mind people knowing who you are, then you can definitely drop down in the comments below and say a little, hey y'all, hey, that's me she's talking about. But for confidentiality purposes, you did not ask me to keep you confidential, but I will definitely be like not mentioning your name throughout this, story time. So thank you so much for sending in your email. It starts out by saying, hi Christian, I hope this email finds you well. Before I start, I want to thank you so much for your channel. Your 2 cents are worth millions because you are educating and freeing so many people from religious bondage. I know you are a very busy businesswoman, but please keep it going as long as you can. And I plan to. In 2023, I plan on ramping it up for me. Okay, that's what I'm looking to do in 2023. Really take it to next level. Do more. Put more out there and really build a strong community to help people, again, navigate through this journey. So thank you for allowing me to share your story and for sending it in. It says, attached below is my story of being raised as a Jehovah's Witness. Come on, 200,000 is only 200,000 is getting in. I actually participated in a book collaboration called I Survived. I took my short chapter from that book and expounded on it a little more in this email. Please feel free to mention the name of this religion if you can, as I am in the process of waking up and mentoring other Jehovah's Witnesses who are PMO, physically and mentally out. Physically in, they're physically still Jehovah's Witnesses, but mentally they have checked out. So I like that. She says she's currently mentoring and waking up others who are PMO, physically in, mentally out, and POMOs, physically out and mentally out. Ooh, I like these terms. Okay. I've attached my story. I hope it's not too long. Thank you so much for sharing. So let's jump right into it. So the title of it is Raised in a Religious Cult, My Exodus. The beginning of the end. It all started with a knock on the door of our apartment in the Bronx, New York. My mother was swept off her feet by a handsome married man whose only intent was to study the Bible with her and convert her to the Jehovah's Witness religion. However, she had other things in mind. My mother agreed to study the Bible with him as the instructor, thinking she would be able to win him over and go out with him, even though she was also married. Fast forward a year later, and he was still a happily married man, and my mother became a baptized Jehovah's Witness. He won. Although we didn't celebrate holidays or birthdays growing up, I never felt like I missed out on anything good because we were taught that people who celebrated such things were, child, don't scroll up. Don't be disrespectful while I'm reading, okay? Talking to my computer, y'all. Okay. I never felt like I missed out on anything good because we were taught that people who celebrated such things were enemies of God and that they would be destroyed at Armageddon. The dread of the end of the world and Armageddon was constantly drilled in me since the age of 2, with the fear of displeasing God and being killed by him on your mind constantly, it didn't bother me not to take part in those celebrations. My goal was to save and rescue the world of non-Jehovah's Witnesses who did. All I ever associated with were other Jehovah's Witnesses that believed the same thing. We lived in the world, but not really. All people in religions outside of our religion were considered worldly and doomed to destruction at Armageddon if we did not convert them. Now, this is the beginning paragraph, right? And there's more to go. But I want to take time to expound upon what was shared in this first part of the story. So the correlation here that's so important to me to make sure that I, relay that and break this down. I've mentioned this and talked about this in other videos about how all religious and spiritual organizations have like those main pain points, right, of what you're trying to reach. It's like a hierarchy. There's like a standard of process and flow and how things go. Like everybody's trying to get here. There's the head, the leader, the Jehovah or whatever that you're trying to please, satisfy, and get approval from. And then there are the messengers, right? And then there's this damnable punishment for everyone who doesn't end up believing. All religious organizations follow this model, follow this structure. And this is like literally it, cut and dry. I was raised as a Christian in the Pentecostal church. And here is our storyteller saying that they were raised as Jehovah's Witness, but it's the same thing. It's Armageddon for them. It's the rapture for us. Like, come on, y'all. Like, see the storyline in the model here. It's so familiar, and it's just so unfortunate that even in every individual organization, everybody has a storyline and an enemy or a mission they're trying to fight and accomplish. And it's brainwashing. It's cultish behavior. It really is. But let's move on to the next part of the story. And I found it very, very interesting when you mentioned how you guys cannot celebrate holidays. I think that's one of the major things that we know of Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't celebrate birthdays. They don't celebrate holidays. They're not coming to your functions. Call them something else if you want them to show up, because they're not celebrating that. I don't know like who came up with these foundational principles for these religions to say that these things are wrong and these things are not. Because Jehovah's Witnesses still go to the club, they still smoke, they still drink, they still twerk, they still work. Like they still out here doing all of the other things, but they don't want to celebrate the day they were born, and they don't want to celebrate, pagan traditions and holidays. And that's fine. That's totally fine, because to each its own. Like if that's your belief system, I don't disrespect that. I just find it so weird that all of these man-made constructs literally take some parts and remove the others, make some things acceptable and make some things damnable. It's like, choose what the real focus is and let us just get to that. But stop trying to cut out the reality of life and like make people miserable. That's literally what most religions do. They make life miserable. And hence the title of the next section. I call you hypocrites. Being the observant child that I was, at the age of 5, I started to notice a lot of hypocrisy with members of the religion as well as my family. Now, this is at the age of 5. I have a 5-year-old daughter. So the fact that you were able to notice hypocrisy at such a young age is amazing. That means that you were very well communicated with, and you were aware enough. You were emotionally, mentally, and socially aware enough to know that people's behavior, actions, and all of that wasn't lining up with what the so-called beliefs and values were. So kudos to you and your family too on making you that aware. I like that. Alcohol abuse was the first thing I noticed. What I just tell y'all. Alcohol abuse was the first thing I noticed. My mother and friends from the Kingdom Hall would get together and play a game called Pass Out. It involved them taking shots of liquor when someone answered a question wrong. Wow. The first to pass out would lose. One night while they were playing, I asked my mother, why is it okay for them to play this game when the Bible says the drunkenness is wrong? I told them that they were all hypocrites. I was slapped in the face and told to shut up and go to my room. I am hot. red as this lipstick. I lost all respect for my mother at the age of 5 because I took obedience to God's law very serious, even at a young age. From that point on, my relationship with my mother was never the same. I was the youngest of 9 children and the only one of the 9 that took the religious serious and eventually became a baptized Jehovah's Witness. When some of my other siblings returned home with their children due to drug and alcohol abuse, I was happy that I had someone to play with and that my sisters were home. Back then, my mother was all about family. Unfortunately, my happiness was short-lived. When my siblings wouldn't agree to go to the Kingdom Hall and stop living like the world, they and their children were thrown out of the house into the streets. Heartbroken, depressed, and worried about my sisters, nieces, and nephews, I wondered what kind of God loved like this. What kind of God-like love is this? How could a mother do this to her children and grandchildren? Still a child, I had no choice but to be what I was raised to be, a loyal, faithful Jehovah's Witness. I mentally blocked out the bad and moved on with the good. By the time I became a teen, I had broken out of my shyness, and my Kingdom Hall friends and I started a dance group. We were good dancers. We performed at gatherings, mild parties with Jehovah's Witnesses only, and wedding receptions. Life was great. Okay, so that's a nice little segue in between. It definitely speaks to the correlation that I can make in Christianity. If you're living a life that is fleshly, worldly, you out there doing all of the things that you weren't taught to do, you cannot dwell in the house that believes those things. And so it is very sad that the very people who are supposed to love and convert those that don't know their religion tend to be the most intolerant and don't draw people by love at all. They literally isolate people more than anything. It's like, well, how do you plan on recruiting anybody if you don't let nobody in because they don't do what you want them to do? Like, I don't know how people don't let love lead. Like how they don't let love light the path to people to find what they have and then want it too. Like, think about that. It's so ironic and it's so counterproductive and it's so hypocritical. Shout out to the title of this section, because you can't win anyone over to what you believe if there's no major point of like agreeance or like a drawing measure. And that's, you know, it's either going to be your life as a light or your love as a lead, like in. And a lot of people in these religious organizations lack both. So next section, sexual assault, 2-witness rule. I've heard about this. I have heard about this rule in another Jehovah's Witness story that I saw online last year, and I cannot wait to hear. Well, I don't know what this section is going to entail, and I hope that it doesn't entail what I think it does, but let's brace ourselves in case it does. And if there's any triggers here just from the titles alone, please, you know, fast forward in the video or something like that. And yeah, I don't want anything to be a trigger for anyone, but I've definitely heard about the 2-witness rule, so let's get into it. The age of 15 was another defining moment in my life as a Jehovah's Witness. My best friends and I all lived in the same high-rise buildings, and we would frequent one another's apartments. One of the elders in our congregation had his brother-in-law Saul visiting from Philadelphia and asked if he could hang out with us. He had just been appointed as a ministerial servant in his Kingdom Hall back in Philly. What the hell is a ministerial servant? Again, the titles that y'all make up. Oh. I was one of the Kingdom Hall babysitters, and I watched the elders and his wife's children weekly. We were all friends, so we didn't mind an extra friend tagging along. Okay. Well, one day we were all supposed to meet at my apartment to celebrate his new servant status with fun, games, and group dancing. The visiting young man was the first to arrive, and when I called to see when everyone else was coming, they said that they couldn't come, but I could come to their house. When I told Saul that the get-together was canceled and that I was going to their house and that he needed to leave, he got upset and refused. He locked the deadbolt and grabbed me, threw me on the couch, and tried to assault me. I fought back, screamed and yelled for help, but to no avail. I locked my body and continued to fight. I remember him saying, "Damn, you're so strong." He told me to shut up, and things proceeded from there. And he told me that no one would believe me if I told, because I let him in the house. He proceeded to kiss me, and I shoved his tongue down my throat. I punched and scratched him in the face to make sure I left evidence of a struggle. I finally broke loose and ran to the kitchen to grab a knife. By now, the phone had been ringing and ringing because my friends were wondering where I was. I held the knife up and demanded that he leave immediately. I was praying my friends would come to check on me, but they never did. He finally left, and needless to say, I was torn up emotionally and mentally. I was angry and felt violated, betrayed, ashamed, and so scared. By now, my relationships with my mother were so distant, I wouldn't dare tell her what happened. I knew for sure she would blame me. I finally confided in an older woman that I babysat for in the Kingdom Hall named Glenda. When I told her, she was shocked and told me to report it to the elders. I did, and they didn't believe me because he denied it. They said there were no other witnesses, and so they did nothing about it. You may ask, why didn't I go to the police? Back then, I didn't even know who or what the police were. The elders and the governing body at the headquarters in Brooklyn are the police in the eyes of Jehovah's Witnesses. As a religiously sheltered child, I didn't know the police even existed. I proceeded to bury the nightmare in my mind and move on. From that experience, I took away an extreme lack of trust for any man that I would meet from that day forward, and sadly, even to this day. Okay, let me start off by saying, I personally am sorry that this happened to you. I am deeply saddened that this would be anyone's experience on such a traumatic level, right? And furthermore, the lack of protection afterwards. The lack of value for your safety, your life, your voice, your body, your well-being is very frustrating. And this is the problem. This is the problem. And that 2-witness rule bullshit is exactly what I've heard about in cases like this, where the elders and other leaders, men, and Jehovah's Witness, as a Jehovah's Witness, has violated and done things to women, young girls, to children. And there's no witness there, so there's nobody else to corroborate your story. So it didn't happen. Go find us someone else. Get somebody else to do it. Like literally, go get somebody else to corroborate your story and we'll believe you. You all do know that there is no predator. There is no assault assailant that is like, let me make sure 2 or 3 are gathered together while I attack you. That doesn't happen. Nobody goes to seek an audience before they commit a crime. No one. No one, no one, no one. No one. Shout out to Alicia Keys. No one. No one is going to have a witness because it shouldn't have been happening. What are we doing here? The fact that you didn't even know the police existed as an option to report someone. So we weren't even teaching you 911 at 3 and 4 and 5 just for safety measures? No, this is why this ish is cultish, because knowing that there is actually lawful figures like outside of your cult or your religion or your organization, it keeps the people in charge out of charge. It lets you know that there's another level you can take this to. Like, I ain't gotta keep talking to you. I'm gonna go tell. I'm gonna go tell the real authorities, my real superiors, like the real people who can do something to you. But they take away all safety nets. They take away all safeguards. They take away all precautions or authoritarian figures that are real and legal, like legal steps that serve you. They take that from you. That's what makes you a weaker member for them to victimize. This is ridiculous. And I am truly, 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 truly saddened that this happened to you. But thank you for sharing it. And hopefully it is impactful, changing, and a red flag for a lot of people who may have experienced it, or they're in it and see it for something else because this hasn't been their portion yet. Or probably, I pray never. But what I'm saying is there are people who don't believe it until it's them, or they don't believe it because it ain't them. It's some people who just ain't gonna believe it until it's their family, it's them, it's their friends, it's whatever. It shouldn't have to hit close to home for people to just start questioning other things they've noticed that just don't fall in line. And that's what bothers me internally, that people get into stuff like this. And you were a child, so you didn't have a choice. And that's why I don't believe children should be indoctrinated into religions. But another video for another day. Let's continue. I have recently come to learn that child sexual abuse is a serious problem in the Jehovah's Witness religion. In fact, it was only after watching the documentary Leah Remini, Scientology, and the Aftermath. Yes! Yes! That show was everything. That show was everything for me. I think that was like the first show, or that was the show that really opened my eyes to a lot of things as far as religion and cult. And it started making me question a lot of things in Christianity, like some of this stuff is eerily similar, like some of the behavior, but this is your story, not mine. But girl, yes, I love, love, love that show. Leah Remini is the GOAT for doing it because they tried to come for her several times. Oh my gosh. So she said that it was only after watching that documentary that I even remembered being sexually assaulted. So there was a Jehovah's Witness version of the Scientology in the Aftermath, and she spoke with people from Jehovah's Witness that were Jehovah's Witnesses, and it was mind-blowing to actually see that talked about on a mainstream media platform like that, to that degree, with people who had left and talking about the Aftermath. So shout out to you, Leah, for being a voice and for giving a platform for more people to get out. Get out. Please get out. I had suppressed the memory of what had happened to me for over 20 years. I am now currently an activist in bringing the inhumane practices of this cult to light. There are several child sexual abuse cases that have gone to trial, and the Jehovah's Witness organization have been forced to pay millions out to victims. I am currently in communication with the Pennsylvania Attorney General in regards to the most recent cases in Pennsylvania. And she included a story link from YouTube, a watch video. I don't know, I may include that in the description if I can. But yeah, or maybe on the community page. If I can post this link in the community page, I'll post it the day this video goes live so you guys can click on it and see what's going on with Jehovah's Witnesses in the recent case in Pennsylvania, because your girl gonna look it up too, okay? I quickly learned that as a young lady in that religion, I had no voice and no rights. But this way of life was all I knew. I proceeded to bury the nightmare in my mind and move on. From that experience, I took away an extreme lack of trust for any man that I would meet from that day forward, and sadly, even to this day. Okay, so there are 3 more sections. So I've already gotten through 3 sections, and there are 3 more sections, and we are at the 25-minute mark for this video, and I want to keep these like around my normal time. So this is a perfect place. Child, I thought I had put y'all on sleep. Don't interrupt me. This is a perfect place to take a break for part 1 and then hit y'all with part 2 tomorrow. Okay, so I'm going to pause here and give you guys a chance to process everything you've heard, and we're going to come back with part 2 tomorrow. Shout out to Annie. And yeah, we're going to conclude this one, and I'm going to give some more live reaction to this amazing story, talking about being raised in a religious cult in the exodus from the Jehovah's Witness religion, okay, of it all. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. Again, it is never my desire to trigger anyone, and I want to be responsible with other people's experiences and other people's feelings. But I also want to be able to share people's experiences as they, share them with me. But I want to say that if only one person is helped from this, if only one person gets away from something that is cult-like or that is not adding up for them right now, this video has served its purpose. If for no other reason than just one person waking up from whatever trance they've been under, or whatever brainwashing they've been under, or whatever little, inklings they've been having recently, feeling like, oh, this ain't right. Let this confirm this for you. If any of this speaks to you and anything you've experienced, get out. Get out. And feel free to send me an email if you need help, or if you need like accountability, if you just need someone to talk to, you want to vent, send me an email. We can talk. I'm not saying I'll share your story about what you want to talk about unless you want to share your story of you getting out of your religion, but we can talk. Like, I don't mind being a sounding board or being there for you if you just want someone to vent to and ask questions and what do you do next or whatever. I'm no expert, like psychology wise, even though that was my major. I'm no expert on how to do all things to get out of religion or out of cults or whatever, but I do have experience. And I do know what it took for me to detach and to do the work to get out of certain things. And I would love to help you too. So if this helps but just one person, the video has indeed served its purpose. So I'm gonna let y'all go. Go ahead, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you turn on your notifications for tomorrow so you get the part 2 of this amazing email and story that we've had the pleasure of reading and being shared from one of our viewers. Thank you again so much for sending it. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Talk to you later. Bye.